The stories you tell yourself shape your life far more than you can imagine. You are the product of all the stories you keep on telling yourself. And you have to realize that the most influential thing that you do every single day, that reprogram your mind, that retrain your subconscious, or that keeps it the same, is based on the story, the narrative, the thoughts, the interpretation that you keep on creating based on what happens around you. Because you have to understand this very important thing. Your brain is like a big content creator machine. Everything that happens in your life, you create a meaning, you create a story, you create an interpretation. You're watching this video, you pick up your phone, you see another piece of content, you walk down the street, you pay some money, you use this, your boss tell you that, you come, like there's always something happening, and there's always a meaning that is created. And so as long as that meaning is created subconsciously, or even worse, by somebody else, you're not in control. You let your subconscious belief, your subconscious program, meaning your past conditioning, fill the gap and can only react, respond based on what you know, what has been done before, and the usual, the norm. So I should be this way, I should feel that way, I should act that way, I should, and you remain exactly on the same level. And so if there's no novelty, how can you change your life? If you don't expand, if you don't think greater, how could you ever change or achieve what you want? Because remember, life doesn't give you what you want. Life gives you what you are. And what defines what you are, it's your state of consciousness. And this is why Einstein said you cannot solve a problem with the same old level of consciousness. So we gotta think greater, we gotta become greater. And to do that, we gotta change the story that shapes our day-to-day moment, because perception equal creation. What shapes our perception? The story we create, the thoughts, the interpretation, the meaning we give something. And we all know how much we suck at doing this. We all know that little things can become massive things. We can make literally nothing. Somebody walking in the street looking at you for half a second, and you can make a whole drama out of it, right? You can see a text message, and you can choose whether I should be angry here or whether I should be laughing here. So we are very good at creating limitation, drama, anger, fear, doubt, and all those low quality stories in our life. And then we wonder, why the fuck is my life not growing, expanding, or generating what I want? It's because you are poor at creating good quality story in your life. If you were to print out that story, you wouldn't read it because it's so freaking depressing most of the time. Okay, so the message is this: as long as you remain unconscious, asleep to what goes on in your mind, you have no chance. You will remain either completely asleep, like a zombie, doing the same thing over and over again, or you're gonna completely leave it to others to think for you, which is a big trend these days, right? Let ChatGPT think for me. Let me let Instagram and TikTok and other people think for me, because I don't wanna burden myself with thinking for myself independently more than 5 seconds. Yeah. We see that trend where people don't want to become conscious, awake, aware, thinking greater, expanding in the direction of what is most authentic, most real for themselves. But so if you want to go to that level, if you want more, if you want to, whatever the next level for you is, whatever it is that you desire, whatever it is that you want to create or overcome on your journey right now, you're going to need to first overcome the same old story, the same old ceiling, the same old bullshit that you allow in your mind. I want to tell you a very powerful story, because this one really blew me up when I heard it, right? And basically it goes like that. They were doing interviews, right? Interviews with successful people and other people that they considered highly unsuccessful, meaning in jail, addicted, and in really, really tough situation in their life. And they wanted to understand, what is the psychology, right? What is it that drove those people, one to living the dream, success financially in relationship and so on, and other people to the complete opposite? What is it psychologically that define, that shape those people? And is it something, is it a link or something, right? So they went to see this really successful man who on paper has everything, yeah? And I asked him, look, what is it that drives you to create this life? And the guy gave like a very compelling answer, and was like, you know what? My life growing up was pretty much the opposite. I grew up in a very tough place, very tough environment, very abusive family. My dad was an alcoholic. He was, angry. He was always coming home late and eating my mom and me and my brother. It was a very tough situation. And I made myself really, like, it drove me to not end up in that type of situation again and to do whatever it takes to create a better life for myself and my family. And so then they want to the opposite. They want to see somebody in jail convicted of murder, and they asked him, what is it that led you down this path of violence and addiction and anger and all of these things? And the guy answered with a lot of anger, I grew up in a very tough environment. Like, I had nothing going for me my whole life. My dad was an alcoholic. It was tough. There was no money. I had no opportunity, no chance, nothing going my way. How else could I have created anything else in my life? I did what I had to do. And you can see the story is similar, isn't it? It's because those two guys were actually brothers. But more interesting is that they were actually twins. And so two person who grew up in the same environment, or the same age, with the same DNA and so on, ended up in completely different freaking environments. And that shows of the power of the psychology that we have and the decisions that we make based on what every single one of those events mean, no matter how painful or unfair or it can be. Because let's face it, there's a lot of things that can happen that completely sucks, that we don't deserve, that we didn't do anything, we didn't ask for. But the only thing we can do is choose how we're gonna respond and what it means. Am I gonna become a victim to the anger and the fear and all those things for the rest of my life? Or I'm gonna choose a powerful narrative that's gonna take me like a freaking trampoline on another level into a life that I wanna create, and I'm gonna let that past go, and I'm gonna create something greater for myself. And that's the power of the story we create. And it doesn't just happen overnight. This is something that happens every single day on every little thing. For example, when you go around and you spend some money, do you feel like contracted? Do you feel anxious? Or do you simply release it and you create an empowering, abundant story? When you see successful people around you who have more than you, do you feel jealous? Do you feel envious? Do you feel like judgmental? Or do you allow other people and celebrate other people's successes and victories? Every single moment we have an opportunity to choose how we show up in our mind, in the meaning that we create. And this shapes our life, whether we like it or not. Whether it's a beautiful story or a shitty, lousy story, it doesn't matter. Your subconscious mind takes it, and perception eventually leads to creation. Let me know what you think down in the comment. As always, thank you for watching, guys. Hit that subscribe button. I'll see you next time.